Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GTECH Group PLC Interim Results Investor Presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and will publish those responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, as usual, we would just like to submit the following poll, and if you could give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company would be most grateful. And I would now like to hand you over to CEO Richard Bennett. Richard, good morning, sir.
Good morning, and thank you. I'm Richie Bennett, and the CEO of GETECH PLC. And today we'd like to present our interim results for H1 2024. The agenda is I was going to take, many of you spoke to many people over August, so we're going to take a quick canter through the quick where we are as a group at the moment, and then focus more on the interim results, the business outlook, and leave plenty of time for the question and answers. But for those that are new to GETECH, GETECH is a company. We're accelerating the clean energy future by locating the subsurface resources that are vital to the energy transition. And it's our point of view that we believe that the clean energy future needs more discoverers. And the history to GETECH is we've worked for a long time helping oil and gas companies find petroleum resources around the planet. And today we've been very much diversifying the business into the subjects that are much more closer to the energy transition. So that's very specifically natural hydrogen, critical minerals such as copper and lithium, geothermal, and carbon storage. Now, we deliver our products through a platform called Globe, which is a SaaS platform, and that allows us to deliver our data and our analytics and our workflows to the exploration community. And key part of our platform is GETECH it has the largest repository of commercially available fields data in terms of magnetic and gravity data and certain amounts of Earth observation data. We have over the last history of the company, we've done a lot of work to kind of harmonize all of that data into the Globe platform and bring a number of analytics such as climate modeling and plate modeling and so on. That is an essential part of the exploration process. And that was the legacy that we inherited. And then more recently, we've been adding a lot of machine learning techniques to be able to sort of materially go through that data at a lot faster speed. And we have a number of workflows and expert workflows to really help translate that data for our exploration-based clients. But more focusing as to today is actually to focus on the H1 interim results. First of all, I'm pleased to say from a governance point of view, we completed the recruitment of Alison Levitt to the board as an independent NED and chairman of the audit committee. So we're very confident that we're back up to full strength and maintaining strong corporate governance within the company. We've had it's been quite a good year. 2023 was a really tough year for GETECH as we went through the restructuring and closed down the H2 Green business and really got the company onto a new cost base for what we've been able to do. And doing that now, we've been able to really help focus and on the new cost base, diversify and start selling, making our diversification into the energy transition. And more than 30% of our revenues are now coming from non-oil and gas based customers. We've really been focusing on sales. We have a very strong sales pipeline of around 9.6 million, which we reported when we went to do the fundraising earlier on in the summer. And we've been expanding our revenues, really trying to turn the platform into from a contractual based service into a SaaS-based service, software as a service, and looking to focus the business on AAR and recurring revenues rather than contractual revenues. We introduced an equity participation revenue generation program during the season, which has been very much focused on the nascent natural hydrogen industry. We've been really working from an R&D perspective on our AI machine learning techniques, again, really to zoom in and help support the new industries for exploration, such as natural hydrogen and the helium industry. A little bit of housework. We managed to sell of our corporate property, we comprised of 2 units. We sold Kitson House and that's released them, sort of paid off a lot of the debt and the mortgage. And we've still got for sale Nicholson House, which we hope to complete in the near future, to sell that business and release the money back into the business and move back from our sort of into the centre of Leeds and more kind of a tech-based environment for the company. Sales have been going in the right direction. We've secured 53 contracts during the period and 2.2 million of revenues, which we'll come on to. And post-period, we've raised 1.7 million in a placing and oversubscribed retail offer for the business. So very specifically zooming into the H1 results, 2.2 million was the revenue for the first half of the year. And that's up 16% on the same period last year. So it's very much moving back in the right direction for where the company is. The cost of the business was 2.8 million, which was down nearly 30%, and mostly attributed to sort of closing down of the H2 grade business. There's a few more costs lurking in there, but overall we're expecting the cost base of the business to be around 5.5 million for the 12-month period. The loss is substantially reduced down to 3.3 million on an EBITDA level again, and I think as widely in various notes, I think from Cavendish and so on, we're expecting our main internal target this year is to make sure that we're breaking even at an EBITDA level within the business. Our contractual order book again is up. That's now up at 4.7 million. And this is revenue that we've sort of contracted revenue that's in our order book that will unwind into the cash flow, into the P&L over the next 18 to 24 months. Cash was very light at the end of the period at 0.2 million, 200,000. That was sort of really drove the need, we think, for the placing. It was our intention to sell Nicholson House, but would you believe it? Just as we put Nicholson House on the market, there was an election called, and all bets seemed to be off, and that kind of left us in quite a tight position. So we went out and did a placing and retail offer, which netted 1.7 million to the business, and cash now on the business is just around the 2 million mark. So we have plenty of room for working capital and for growth. And very importantly, the AAR, which is our real metric now within the business, what everybody's focused around, is up nearly 10% to 2.9 million. And again, it's another key objective of the business to get the AAR above the cost base and make sure that we really have a sustainable business as we actually move forward into the future. For those that saw the fundraising presentation, we have a very strong pipeline of opportunities. We've been really focusing the tail end of 2023 and the first part of 2024 on developing the sales pipeline, which now stands at 9.6 million across both the Globe platform, which would be AAR, as well as geoscience services and data. We're also working on a number of joint venture exploration agreements. For those that followed what we did with eStar earlier on in the year, that there's been quite a success, I think, for the business and proving a bit of a template for doing new transactions, particularly in the nascent hydrogen sector. And we're working on a number of different JVA opportunities that we hope to be talking about later on this year or early into 2025. And throughout this, I think what we're very keen to do is demonstrate some of the work we've been doing outside of the petroleum sector. So I might just hand over to Chris Jeps just to briefly talk through some of the projects that we've been running.
Sure, thanks, Richard. So yeah, just a few examples on the screen here of how we've been applying the techniques we've developed and have been using very successfully in the petroleum business for the last sort of 20-25 years into these emerging energy transition sectors. We just cherry-picked a few examples to sort of show the breadth of markets where those techniques can be applied. So, for example, on the left, natural hydrogen, it's been a real focus for us over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. Turns out our gravity and magnetic data set is incredibly useful at predicting locations of the source rocks for natural hydrogen, as they're often igneous rocks that are very heavy and have a certain magnetic signature. So we've been working with a number of organisations, one particular project focusing on North America, but we are looking at other places around the world, And you can see from the image here, our data's in the kind of the blue and yellow and green sort of image in the background there. You might make out some hatched areas, and those hatched areas are actually the map locations of the natural hydrogen source rocks. And you may be able to see some little red dots, and those red dots are actually where natural hydrogen has been measured or observed at the surface. And you can see those areas are really picked out by our underlying data. The area to the swoop to the north is actually offshore, so there's been onshore work done there, which is no sort of hatching and red dots there. But you can see how well our data is able to show those kind of scenarios. Moving on into the middle, our geologic data is incredibly useful in helping us predict a large number of minerals resources, such as copper. In this case, this was sedimentary copper, which is a particular type of way that copper can be formed. There are others, which is why you may look at the map and see certain hotspots that aren't being highlighted, but this is for sedimentary copper at a particular stratigraphic level. And what we do is we compile our globe data and break down the genetic system for the sedimentary copper, and we map the elements of that genetic system into layers within our globe data. We've got over 40,000 layers within our globe product, and we look for co-location of those phenomena, and we also use machine learning to help us predict where we might be able to find copper. So this was a kind of global analysis. We're able to run that analysis globally, regionally, or more locally as well. And then finally, on the right-hand side, we are using our geologic data, in this case for carbon storage. So carbon storage, you're actually looking for, unlike the other natural resources, you're actually looking for pore space within rocks rather than something sitting within the rock itself. So you're looking for holes in the rocks. And we can actually use our geologic data to predict where there might be, for example, sandstones that have a particular characteristic which would lead them to have very good permeability and porosity, i.e. Space to pass carbon through and then ultimately to store it in. We actually worked with the NSTA, which is the North Sea Transition Authority, on this project ahead of them launching the first carbon storage licensing round for the UK continental shelf, which ended up closing very successfully with a number of companies bidding for acreage and indeed being awarded acreage by essentially by the UK government. So yeah, just a few examples there of how we're using our data in these emerging sectors.
Thanks, Chris. I think let's focus. I think really what I'd like to do is sort of focus a little bit on the business outlook. We spoke a lot about this within the fundraising sort of presentation, but one of our North Stars really for the company is how data-led exploration is really disrupting the mining sector. One of the interesting things that we found over the last 8 months, you've seen sort of nearly sort of 500 million being invested from tech money going into the sort of data-led exploration sort of area. Most of this has ended up with people like Cobalt and Coloma, who are collectively or individually sort of Cobalt is using data-led exploration to look for copper and battery metals, and Coloma, backed by Bill Gates and Breakthrough Ventures, is looking for natural hydrogen. And then there's a number of emerging people like Zanska applying AI to geothermal, and Terra AI looking for minerals in that. And what we're seeing is sort of tech really going into the disruption of the sort of subsurface exploration market. And when we sort of look at GETECH, we sort of look at what we've got. We've got more data than any of these companies. We've been ahead of in terms of analytics. We've been using supercomputer modeling for decades, and now bringing in machine learning into that. So part of what we're really trying to do is definitely diversify the revenue streams, but also kind of make sure that we kind of sort of don't lose our sort of position within the race within this sort of data-led exploration sort of sector. And that will then sort of translates into very much why we went out and decided to do the placing over the summer period. Clearly, cash was light, so we raised money for working capital purposes. We have a very much a H2 weighted cash flow. And that provides the working capital to make sure we sort of we get to that point. But the extra money is really there for us to use to go for business development, to add sales and business development people, to help directly work through the pipeline that we have, and start looking at how to implement some of these joint exploration agreements that we have in place, and to also bring in more data science potential to help with the algorithmic side of things, and make sure that we kind of at least maintain sort of pace with the other kind of data-led exploration companies that are actually out there now in the marketplace. But that has to translate into money, and the way we do that, the traditional base for GETECH has always been the global explorers, predominantly the oil companies. We're trying to advance on two vectors on that one. First of all is typically the AAR with each of these clients is about 200k per year. And what we're really trying to do now is grow that AAR with more features and functions and services on the Globe platform to increase that, as well as add new logos and new customers to that platform. And the companies obviously work very well, the oil and gas companies. It's now trying to look at sort of the global mining companies and others akin to that to bring onto the platform. But our other innovation during the period is really to try and bring on board the regional explorers and the junior explorers. And for that, we have a lot of value to what they're doing, but they're kind of much more constrained on budgets, which is where we brought in our revenue sharing model. So for example, we're just working with one Spanish client at the moment to do a global search, or a search in North America for natural hydrogen, and we're getting a good royalty and we're getting fees for that business. We're also then taking a 5% royalty of anything we find with them on that basis. And then at the junior end of the market, we've been working, trying to come up with similar kind of creative pricing models. One example of that is our work that's in the public domain with eStar, whereby again, there are fees for actually the work we're doing with them. We also have like an equity carried interest on anything that we find, any license areas that we develop with them on that process. So key to what we're trying to do is making sure that we're bringing in revenue and making money to meet the short-term targets, but also kind of trying to build sort of value into the mid-term sort of growth rate for the business. So, as I said, 2023 was a very tough year when we took all the bad decisions, and we're going into 2024. And this is, for us, it's much more confident outlook. We've got the lower cost base now. We're ahead already, 16% up on revenues. The AAR is going in the right direction, and we've got a very strong sales pipeline for what we can actually bring into the business. And we're focused, so that from a business perspective, we're sort of mobilizing the teams as a management team around increasing the AAR, getting more joint exploration agreements together, and really the target, as per the Cavendish numbers, is to be EBITDA positive by the end of this year, and also make sure that we keep pace with the R&D and as I say, looking at the machine learning techniques to stay pace with the rest of the industry peer group. And again, this was a quick counter through this morning because many of you heard the story over the summer and really wanted to bring time to question and answers.
Perfect. Richard, Andrew, Chris, if I may just jump back in there, and thank you very much indeed for your presentation this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab that's situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the company take a few moments to review those questions that were submitted already, I'd just like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can all be accessed via your investor dashboard. Guys, as you can see there, we have received a number of questions throughout your presentation this morning, and thank you to all of those on the call for taking the time to submit their questions. But guys, at this point, if I may just hand back to you just to read out those questions and give your responses where it's appropriate, and if I pick up from you at the end, that would be great. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So just quickly reading through some of the questions here. I think the first one, what percentage of the opportunity pipeline are you realistically expecting budgeting to win? I'm not going to answer that question directly. I think we're very confident with the market numbers that Cavendish have in place for us. And I think what we've recognized as we've gone through H1 is there's plenty in our pipeline, and we need more salespeople to do that. So our plan at the moment is recruiting new sales and business development people. We hope to have 3 to 4 on board before the end of the year. And the answer is to convert as much as possible and to keep on growing. Who do you see as your main competitors? it's kind of a tricky one, really, because I think there's lots of adjacent competitors. The exploration space is a very large sort of crowd of people that sort of operate in that. We don't have any sort of direct competitors, I don't think, in terms of the amount of data that we have. That's been acquired over a 30-year period, and it's kind of like the real legacy that we have the opportunity to build on. The people that are sort of been driving the data-led exploration kind of market are people like Cobalt and Coloma out there, and they're not really competitors in the sense, because what they've realized is probably their data is more valuable to be used to go and find assets rather than actually go and sell the data and services to the wider community. So we're kind of all part of the same sort of peer group, but we're approaching the business model from a different way. We then have other people in the marketplace like CGI and things like that, the traditional providers of data. And again, they're adjacent to us. They're not really sort of direct sort of competitors. I think GETECH is unique in what its offering is, but there's probably different ways of approaching. There's many ways of approaching subsurface exploration markets. So you're competing with other type of services. Next question. Geothermal and carbon storage were mentioned as areas of diversification. What proportion of current and future revenues do you anticipate will come from these segments? What we sort of embarked on about 2 years ago was a real exercise to say where can we actually use our data and skills, and where can we have impact? And we found natural hydrogen, certain critical minerals such as copper, geothermal and carbon storages were areas that were really showing up well in our data, and where we can provide a strong technology proposition to those marketplaces. And I think what we found, I suppose it's no surprise, is they're all moving ahead, but the fastest ones that are moving ahead is the battery metals. The world needs 10x more copper discoveries than have actually taken place so far in order to meet the energy transition. So there's a lot of money flowing into that, and consequently, that's probably an easier win. Natural hydrogen has been very big for us. It's a nascent industry. Nobody knows how to do that. We've got very interesting techniques to find it, so we're getting a lot of interest from that. So that's probably the second hottest area for us internally. And we're making progress with both geothermal. We recently started a project to do a countrywide screening for a whole Asian country at the moment, where we're kind of sort of trying to help a regional explorer kind of sort of identify areas of interest to go and acquire geothermal licensing. It's geothermal as a technology, is number of technologies are coming to bear from people like Evor and so on that kind of will change the way geothermal works. We're moving forward, but it's just not moving as quick as the other sectors. And same with carbon storage. We're working on a project at the moment in the southern part of the United States of America, USA, looking for that. It's moving forward. We're getting revenues for carbon storage. It's just not moving as quickly as the battery metals and the and natural hydrogen. That's all moving forward. Are you forecasting being free cash flow positive by in 2025? I think I'm going to refer you to the Cavendish have got a good report out on that where they're expecting that to be. I'm going to refer that question to the report that's available from James McCormick over at Cavendish. But from the key goal, I think from the business is to be EBITDA level of where we want to be this year, and get the AR above the cost base. Those are the two things that we're really driving as a management team to deliver at this point. And how does GETECH technology generate data compared with the two very well-funded competitors? That's really going to be our challenge, is how to actually sort of catch up with companies like that. We're different in the sense that both Cobalt and Coloma are using their data in a proprietary format to go and peg their own licenses, where we're actually kind of acting as an outsourced geological department for other companies. So it's not quite a fair comparison yet, but at the moment we're focused on getting the platform right, getting new customers on board, and just moving in that direction, and we'll see what happens. We look forward to updating everybody more on that. GETECH claims to have the world's largest commercially available collection of magnetic and gravity data. Has this been independently verified? Yes, this was verified by the lawyers that verified the document for the recent fundraising. And how much better is GETECH's data than other commercial providers? It's hard to answer that. I think that the GETECH data has been collected over 30 years. It's been moved. What has been the secret to the success of the business is to really harmonize that data into the Globe platform. And what really is that is the legacy to the business. And the future success will be determined by how well we can write the algorithms to interpret that and bring in new layers of data that people are looking for to make decisions about exploration. When do you expect AAR to be above the cost base? Difficult question to answer, but that is an absolute key target of the business, and we're just driving that as hard as we can. I'm not going to commit to that, but that's very much work in progress. If you had to recruit specialist expertise in the new targeted areas such as natural hydrogen, or have you had to recruit specialist expertise? The answer is not really. The existing team of geoscientists are very adept in the natural hydrogen space. You're looking for a different source rock compared to oil and gas. You're looking for the ultramafic rocks, which is slightly different, but very much within the existing skill set. And then how the hydrogen flows through the ground, and sort of the traps and seals and things that people are looking for is very much a GETECH core skill. So we've been very much able to repurpose what we're doing for that, and we'll be looking to recruit in that space. But we have an incredibly talented team there in place, and we're looking forward to growing on that. Where would GETECH's data sit globally if the commercial qualification wasn't applied? What is stopping non-commercial entities from making their data available commercially? It's a trick. I think the answer to that one is it's quite hard to answer that question. But what stops the data being other companies releasing their data? I think a lot of people, sort of the large oil companies consider that to be sort of proprietary to them and part of their secret source. So I don't see them releasing that. And most companies are doing this on a kind of local scale and regional scale, so they don't have access to a global data set. I think it's just a virtue of just the way GETECH really went about the first 20 to 30 years of its lifespan of really accumulating all of that data. And it's given us a real legacy it's a real legacy for us to build on. And now with advanced analytics and computer sort of algorithmic support, we look forward to building that and sort of giving that data new life and bringing in new data layers to make it more meaningful and useful to the exploration community. And with that, I think I've answered all of the questions. Hopefully that wasn't too quick for everybody. The team, myself, Andrew and Chris are all available on email and calls if anybody has any private questions or wants us to take that further. And with that, thank you very much for attending our presentation this morning.
Perfect, Richard, that's great. And thank you very much indeed for being so generous with your time and addressing all of those questions that came in from investors this morning. And of course, if there are any further questions that do come through, we'll make these available to you immediately after the presentation has ended, just for you to review, to then add any additional responses, of course, where it's appropriate to do so. And we'll publish all those responses out on the platform. But Richard, perhaps before really just looking to redirect those on the call to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to yourself and the company, if I could please just ask you for a few closing comments to wrap up with, that would be great.
Thank you. No, we appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody. I think, 2023 was a really tough year for us as we sort of closed down the H2 Green business and reset the cost base. That was a reduction of nearly 30% headcount within the business, and got everybody refocused. But we're now I think we're very excited really, because we're reaping the rewards of that now. We're operating on the lower cost base. We've got a very sort of focused sales team. We're adding new sales and business development people, and really now focused on revenue generation, and sort of maintaining, sort of heading in that direction of a company going into that data exploration space. So we're looking forward to the end of the year and hopefully updating people with a positive end of year story. Thank you.
Perfect, Richard. That's great. And thank you once again for updating investors this morning. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can really better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of GTech Group PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session, so good afternoon to you all.